But what we have to do before we graduate, of course, is you're all valedictorians and you're all going to give a little speech. Now, it can be really whatever you like. What we had suggested was either a redo of your diagnostic speech, which we have recorded, or a speech that will be useful for you, something that you're going to do. Again, we'd still like it to be pretty quick, pretty concise. So my suggestion, I think I mentioned, was 3 minutes. But if it's like an actual speech that you're going to do that's 5 minutes, then cool, let's do it. Free feedback, free coaching. And the way that we'll do it is one person will go and they'll do the thing, start to finish. You'll just go, and then when you're done, we'll ask you how it went for you. You'll give yourself your own feedback first, and then we'll take comments from the peanut gallery, just a couple. Not everyone has to participate in that, but that way all of us can sort of apply our learning that way too, just sort of like as watching something. And then Vicki and I will say a couple things. We're also going to be taking notes as we go, and you will get these notes as well as notes that we have made on your diagnostics, so you get a compare contrast. And then we'll have the next person go. So we anticipate this is a longer process, so buckle up. We might be here for 90 minutes, or maybe not. If everyone gives like 3-minute speeches and makes quick comments and quick feedback, it could be an hour, but we've done this before and we know that can take some time. People have things to say. So,
I certainly do.
Or time limits to exceed. Does anyone have questions? And then we'll do like a graduation. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
I'm not really sure if I'm going to do mine because this snuck up on me today, and I've had an infection that I've been fighting off. Ooh. So yeah, so I'm not sure if I'm going to do mine or not because I haven't practiced.
Oh, well, this will be great practice for doing an impromptu speech. I'm relentless. Why don't you watch a few? Because I hope that you will still participate in the feedback. Watch a few and see if the spirit moves you, as the Quakers say.
Okay.
Is that what they say?
Yeah, I think that's, I went to one Quaker service. It was too weird for me. I love them. I don't want to go to their meetings.
Okay.
Who's volunteering to go first?
We will choose if you don't volunteer. Sarah's like 1, 2, 3, not it. I don't know. You're on mute, Sarah.
She's faking. That's not Sarah. That's Stacy.
You're all on mute.
Sorry, that's my daughter.
Oh, sorry. Oh my God. I just looked at the name and Laura's like, okay, well, my bad. Sorry.
Nope, that was me. That's me.
There you go.
But still.
Matthew, would you like to go first?
I have to get dinner out of the oven right now. The timer just went off.
Okay.
I'm sorry. You can even hear it in the background.
Likely story. I can make my timer go off whenever I like also. Maya, you look gorgeous. It looks like you are all ready for the camera. Would you go first for us?
Unmute.
Okay. I will go.
Thank you, Maya. We all appreciate that.
All right. Oh, look at you. Take my blanket off and good.
And it will be helpful for everyone else who's listening to move out of the gallery view and pin Maya so you can just kind of see her.
Okay. I was born with a rare genetic disorder called Marfan syndrome. I spent most of my first 2 years in the hospital having surgeries, but it would be several years later before my parents would learn what the cause of my difficulties was. I have a list of specialists and medications. Without health insurance, I could not afford the tests and pharmaceuticals needed to keep my heart as healthy as possible, let alone the periodic necessary surgeries 11 to date, and hospitalizations. My husband and I are blessed to have 4 children. One is autistic, one inherited my genetic disorder, and one has a brain injury from in utero. I can't work because of the time that I spend in therapists and doctors' offices with my children. I will never forget a family member telling me, people like me shouldn't have to pay for people like you, meaning that healthy people shouldn't be forced to pay for the healthcare of the unhealthy, as though somehow it's my fault that I have a defective 15th chromosome. But that's the belief that is held by many of our politicians today. They want to moralize health and insist that you pay for your care yourself. The only moral question should be, how are we okay being a country that would allow people to suffer and die just because they have a pre-existing condition? In 2013, my mother was about to start a new job, a tenure track professorship, when she started to have dizziness. Less than a week later, we learned that she had stage 4 cancer as she was whisked off to emergency brain surgery. I was with her when she woke up, and the first thing that she did was ask for a social worker to come and tell her whether she had healthcare coverage. I don't want to live in a country where somebody's first thought upon waking up from surgery is whether or not they're going to go bankrupt from their care. We should be better than that. We can be better than that. And we must be better than that. This is not a Democratic or Republican issue. This is a human issue. There are 11 million Ohioans, and 4.8 million of us live with pre-existing conditions that range from diabetes and asthma to genetic disorders and cancer. We must ensure that common sense overcomes partisanship and that our elected officials work together to protect our care. This is a cause that's worth fighting for.
Two minutes and 59 seconds. That's wonderful.
You just missed it.
I loved it. So first, what did you think? How do you think you did?
I didn't have all of it memorized, so I worry about if my eyes were going down. And I'm not sure about my pacing and my facial expressions.
Okay.
So I don't know.
What do you think you did well?
I think I did some good pauses, and I think that there were some parts where I was animated. I think we're good.
Yeah, okay, good. Now, some feedback from your peers. What did you notice about this speech? What struck you? What did you love? What did you learn maybe for yourself? And what might you suggest for Maya? Anyone can go. We're just looking for a couple people to speak up.
So Maya, I thought you did a really good job, and the 2 minutes and 59 seconds is pretty bang on. If I can be Vicky for a minute, there were a couple of opportunities where you could really dig into the words and match up the emotion with the words being shared. Emergency brain surgery, stage 4 cancer. Those are really big and heavy words that could have been emphasized. I thought your facial expressions were good, and I love the red lip.
Mm-hmm.
Always gonna go first. Yep.
I Googled to see which one she uses.
Love it. Let's get another comment from your peers. Anyone else? Yes, Matthew.
Gesundheit.
That was not planned. I was about to say that I really liked your use of pausing because you grabbed my attention on a couple of key places where sort of my attention was sort of naturally starting to wane, and then there was a pause, and you reeled me back in. And the sneeze was just an unfortunate happenstance that was not planned.
Love that. Good deal. Good deal. Okay. So Vicky, do you want to go next, or you want me to go?
Sure. First of all, Maya, I'd love it if you could raise your camera up. Okay, I want to see those beautiful eyes. And yep, a little more, a little more, a little more. I'll do Liza Minnelli. Up, 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 up. Perfect. Yes, look how lovely that is. Yep. See how much better that is? I can see your eyes better. So the next time you come online, get that camera up there. Okay.
Yeah, this is the height for that. We
Yeah.
get to see your expressions better, your eyes. You can make contact with us better. Absolutely.
And there were so yes, Stacy, thank you for the word coloring. The ebb and flow, peak, valley, all that stuff that we like. What I wanted to hear more of is more story, something dug in a little deeper, and probably you have permission to tell your mom's story about that. So, and I think that would be effective if you could color that somehow with something sensory, how it felt, how it looked, what the weather was that day, what you were having for breakfast. I mean, anything just to make that story more personal and more fucking pissed offness. I know, not a word, but because it's so strong after everything you've been through with your family, and I'm sure your mother went through all of it with you, and then she wakes up and is worried about going bankrupt. So I want to see some family love and some family getting together and all of those senses. Arshad, you might be able to help me express all of these things better in the storytelling way. Mm-hmm. But that's what I would like the most from all of that, because it's it makes me so mad. Oh, and the very end, what was your very last word, your very last sentence?
That this is a cause worth fighting for.
Yeah, this is a cause worth fighting for. This is a cause worth fighting for. Power through to the end, because it is a cause worth fighting for. I
agree. I want to
fabulous. It's such
affirm everybody else's. First of all, I think you did great.
Yeah.
Absolutely affirm everyone else's tips. So I love a little bit of makeup goes a long way, and so I love the red lip. Absolutely, everyone to do just a little bit more on Zoom. It really does make a difference. If it were like regular TV camera, it would be obvious and clear. Yes, you're gonna do your whole face, right? But so let's do that here too. And good tip with the camera angle. Okay, so content notes. Vicky had kind of called me out on this, so I have a couple for you here. I love the content that you provided. I just want to tweak it a little bit to as Vicky was talking about, kind of dig a little bit deeper, because it's really good. The thing that really grabbed me the first time is, you're explaining about, Marfan syndrome, and, oh, you've got to do all this, it's meant you've got to do all this stuff. Just take care of yourself. Okay, got that. The part that really grabbed me was when somebody had said, completely misunderstanding how insurance works, which, again, galling, but here we are.
You're a doctor.
Okay. So I have so much to feel about that. That quote is so attention grabbing to me that, especially knowing that it comes from a doctor, I almost want to put that right up in front. That could almost be your attention grabbing intro, hook or whatever, where you say,
oh, is it the moralizing healthcare part?
Yeah, whereas I shouldn't have to pay.
Yeah.
A healthy person like me, healthy people shouldn't have to pay for your health, whatever, right? Almost like that could be like your starting thing that people are like, what now? What are we doing? And then you explain your condition, and then you make it very clear, like, this is a genetic condition. I didn't choose to need 11 surgeries, and it is 11 surgeries: heart surgery, this surgery, that surgery. So for my own healthcare provider to so completely misunderstand not only how insurance works, but that nobody chooses to be born with Marfan syndrome, like that is something that really like for people, like just gets at them, right? Now, I always like to say in any of these stories, let's put a choice in there. And that could be, and that's why I'm here today in front of you. Or it could be, and that's why everyone here, I might not have had the choice to be born with Marfan syndrome, but all of us here in this room, we have a choice to create a healthcare system that works for all of us. Something along those lines. Yes, the choice stuff is just so important for us who are trying to change the world, because it can seem too hard, too difficult, too daunting. Anyone who's had any experience with the healthcare system, right? Like daunting is certainly top 3 words you might use. So, but centering back on the fact that we have some control, it's really great. That said, I also think the story about your mother and her waking up and, needing to speak to her social worker right away so she can see if this has bankrupted herself or her family. That's quite the story. So I like keeping all of that. And you did it all in 3 minutes. So
that was
it's really quite excellent. You put a lot of material into 3 minutes. Really quite excellent. If anything, to elevate your story, you might think about a couple things to cut. I know that's hard, but I think you did a great job there.
Plus, I would say that we certainly had feelings coming away from it.
Yeah.
You certainly left us with feelings.
Yes, it's true. And like, there are times in your face, it's just like, gave me kind of like a what the fuck face, or like, I'm just, that's good, right? Like, a dead face is never good. A robotic permanent smile is never good, although we like a smile. But when you're frustrated, be frustrated. When you're outraged, be outraged. And so that's good. And maybe even turn that dial up a little bit more as you call your words up a little bit more. Okay to be a little bit dramatic.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Who, me?
No.
Okay. Lovely. Thank you so much. I have so much gratitude for you for being our first.
Yes.
And also for you sharing your story with us. I think, I know it's a lot.
Is your mother okay now?
No, she's passed away.
Oh, honey, I'm sorry.
All right. So who's going to go next? I'm back on gallery view. Who's going next? Erin, since you're just joining us, would you like to go next?
I have to be honest, I've had a bit of a week and I have nothing prepared.
I love it. Just what we were talking about earlier, that is even better practice. That way you're not reading any script. You know how we don't like it.
I sure am not. I don't know. I think I'd like somebody else to go.
Okay. Erin, we'll give you a little bit of time and you may find inspiration in other people.
Thank you.
Okay. Then, if Erin's not going next, who's going to go? That kind of evasive behavior calls for a calling upon. Stacey, would you share with us your story?
Okay. If I could also start with the caveat that this has been a week. My daughter's been running a low fever and I've been running disaster scenarios. But today's been better, so that part's good. Let's see. I don't have anything prepared.
That's okay.
Okay. I did speak on the school board public meeting last week, and I think I remember some of that. So I can do that one. So I'd like to thank the board members, Chairman Dashu and Superintendent Winston, for the opportunity to meet with you all and reiterate the concerns I have about our school board's dashboard. As we're tracking COVID-19, I think we're all seeing that we're not moving in the right direction. The case count is exploding, and it is hard to make people feel comfortable with the information that's available for a number of reasons. I'd like the board to address the fact that the dashboard is incomplete in its level of detail. It's neither cumulative in terms of counting cases, nor does it have school building level of specificity. That's important because parents and staff at particular buildings need to know what the case count looks like in the building that they attend school. We did have an instance last week where teachers found out of cases at their school on the local news instead of through the dashboard. And I think we can all agree that's backwards and isn't how it's meant to work. I also want to bring up the point that the dashboard you all have created doesn't reflect reality and doesn't reflect a desire to actually get ahead of this infection. What we're seeing is a politicalization of data that focuses more on liability protection than actual protection. And parents, families, staff members, we all see that, and we can feel that the work that's being done is not sincere. I'd like to challenge the board also to think of your role more as a leader and less as someone who's getting information just from the health department or the state level leadership. You do have a job here, and it is to protect the families and the staff within the district. Even being the 17th line of defense, you are still a line of defense. And so far you've abdicated that responsibility. I've been on this call several times already. I've talked about similar things, and I want to reiterate that this isn't going away. In fact, it's not getting better. We're unnecessarily risking people's health and lives when we don't have data that tells us we're moving in the right direction. In fact, our data tells us otherwise. So I'm asking you all to meet with whoever you need to meet with, have whatever conversations you need to have, but come back with quick and decisive action that reverts the district to Plan C, 100% virtual, for the safety and lives of our families. Thank you.
Excellent. Also about 3 minutes, like 3:06 or so. It's great.
Thank you.
Well done. Okay, so first up is you. How do you think you did?
I wish I had my notes handy. That's my bad. I had a couple of really good zingers. We have two members of our board who are Trump supporters to the extent of parroting his talking points about the infection, and it's, you know, odd and completely unproven absence from schools. So I definitely zinged the members that feel that way in the actual presentation. And I don't know, it wasn't very clean. I certainly should have been able to pronounce politicalization on the first try, or just avoid that word entirely. It's a bit of a mess. Although that is what's happening. So it's accurate, it's just a bit of a tongue twister. And I think, I'd like to get your guys' feedback about this part. I tend to be snarky, confrontational. I say things on purpose to make someone go, oh, is she talking to me? Because yes, bitch, I am talking to you. But I know that that's off-putting. It's meant to be, but I feel like that sometimes gets in the way of further discussion. Like, I will call people out, and I do that, but then, you know, it just becomes more of a tit for tat. So good, no. Is that something to continue or not?
I think there's two questions there. One is a question of style, which I think was what you're talking about. You're saying, well, this is my style. If somebody if somebody needs to be called out, I'm going to do it. And then the second question is, who's your audience, right? Like, so what is the point for you to do that? If calling somebody out, if you think calling somebody, if your point is to talk to that person, call them out, and then change their mind and their behavior, then if that doesn't work, then don't do it. But if you know that that person is not going to change their mind, but you know that a whole bunch of other people are watching and that other people could be held accountable, then whatever, fuck that dude, or whatever. Because your audience is another group of people who need to see that they are being watched and that they will be held accountable, that the people actually have really real and strong feelings here. So the added benefit of that is that it's quite memorable when you are, more clever than the average like person who read from their notes or whatever, right? Who read like a milquetoast set of notes. So I am generally in favor of, I'm not always the best person to ask that because my bias is very clear in that direction, but I've also done pretty well having that bias. So yeah, the consideration isn't just your style, it is also the audience, which you would hope to achieve. So maybe that person doesn't like, oh my gosh, but if other people are like, that's what we need more of. Or if people are like, oh God, you know what? I am not going to stick my neck out now. I'm just going to make sure everyone gets the information. Like if you can hold people accountable by example, that's also fine. No one wants to be called out.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Heaven knows you don't want to appear as shrill. Snarky like that.
Oh dear. Okay, let's get some comments from your peers, and let's have a couple of people step up. What did people think about Stacy's address to the school board?
I thought you had good rhythm, good pausing. There was one point where you were like, you have a responsibility here, which stuck out. And then you went on to say that they've abdicated it. I was like, good, you were blunt, like you used good words to describe it, like you were strong in that delivery.
Thank you.
I also think that it showed that you really cared. You cared about the staff, you cared about the students, and you wanted them to know this is the deal now. Things are turning around and we need to keep the people in these buildings safe. It's time you make a decision. So I thought that was good. People are going to listen, or they should listen.
Thank you.
Vicki, you want to go?
Yep. I had that same thing too. Good. You do have a job here. Very pointed, which was good because it was right after what I wrote, be Vicki. Redemption. Your eye contact, by the way, is fabulous. Nice. Are you sitting up straight?
I'm not.
Okay. All right, just take that note. Liability as their priority over safety. That's where you could really color some words and you could show a bit of emotion there rather than just listing that off as something you've observed. Let them know that it's not right in your view. You can do that. And that was the one place that I thought that I could use a little more emotion.
Okay.
Good call to actions at the end. Oh, yes. Yes. All the things that people can do, must do, all those things, good at the end, except for when you said family. This is
when I said
every single person in the world does this. Dropping off at the end.
Yeah.
For our families or whatever, it was a drop off. It wasn't a power through. So everybody think about powering through to the end of your thoughts and your phrases, especially at the end. Let it hang out there in the air. Look at me gesturing and I'm out of the frame completely. Let it hang out in the air, your last word. And then, you can take that energy back. But let that energy hang out there at the end because you want people to process what your big important finale is.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
And your lighting is fabulous too. All your setup is really,
that is really good.
yeah.
No, I'm saying it like that out of curiosity because it's clear that you're like in your bedroom.
I am very, yeah. This is my headboard.
Yeah.
I see the headboard.
I'm like, does your bed just naturally get great lighting? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's on purpose.
Lovely, lovely. Well, it is lovely. And it's also a nice warm color. I love that. Okay. Yes, I agree with a lot. Like the eye contact, I think that's very good. I love that there is emotion in this. So that's another way to read your actual question that you asked us is, should I put emotion in this? And yes, the answer is yes, 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 yes. Women tend to question their contribution, like when they contribute emotion to a thing, because women have been made to always be sort of like, oh, well, now you're just being emotional. That's not fair, right? So of course, that's why you're like, well, should I be this emotion? Should I be that emotion? The reason that that's not fair is because that's what's memorable. So when people are saying, oh, you're just being very emotional, what they're comfortable with is that you're stealing a little bit of the limelight away from them, the boring old white dude who can just communicate without emotions because he's not developed fully as a human. So I think that it is good for you to add that emotion. I don't just think that. I know that when you have emotional weight behind your words, behind your stories, people tend to remember it more. And yes, that means you're going up against headwinds because you're a woman with an emotion. But if you want to stick, you still have to do it. Whatever. Somebody calls you a bitch. So, so yes to that. A couple notes about how you can kind of work with this content. So when you started the speech, you started with like a thank you, and it's a formality to start with a little bit of gratitude, even if you don't mean it. And I don't know that you meant to thank anyone in this. So why waste?
Acting. It's called acting.
Right? Like find another way to express gratitude that isn't just, I'd like to thank the chair of this board and the other person for, you just wasted 15 seconds of your 3 minutes. Instead, you could say like, we're all grateful to have a forum to talk to you. And I'll be very honest with you. I'm going to be using this forum for some words that I need to have with you. Something along those lines.
Okay.
So I'm not huge into being like, oh, thank you with this formality in 20 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever. But then after that, I was not quite sure what the topic of your bit was going to be. Was it about the dashboard? Okay, well, we talked about the dashboard a little bit. Really, though, at the end of the day, it was an abdication of responsibility and a call to action for what needs to happen next. So because the next substantive thing that you said is that the dash, like the numbers aren't moving in the right direction. The dashboard isn't being really informative. Those are all really subpoints under your big point. Lead with the big thing. For a thing like this, when you're asking for something, and in particular, you've got the opportunity to testify, lead with the thing, and then keep hitting on that thing as you go. Everything else is supporting on that thing, supporting your point on that thing. And then at the end, you've got the ask, which at this point might be obvious, right? So, when I was hearing this, and if I were to rewrite it, in my mind, I was thinking, I might rewrite this as a series of very obvious questions to ask everyone, to focus people. Like you could say, we're all here to talk about the health and well-being of our children and our families as a whole. And so we have to ask ourselves, does anyone here think we're going in the right direction? The answer is obviously no, right? But it gets people thinking about it. And then they know what's coming. If I look at the dashboard, if anyone looks at the dashboard, does it tell you that we're going in the right direction? No, it does not. Even worse, it doesn't even tell me the most important things we have to that we need to know about. It doesn't tell me this or this or this. And I know this for a fact because parents in this room found that their child was sick, not from the people who have a responsibility to that child, but from the media. So like that is a supporting point to all this stuff. And it's outrageous and it deserves a pause. Right? And you did pause. But it's just so dramatic. I love it. I hate it. But you know what I'm saying for speaking. I love it. And the other thing that Vicky already mentioned this, but or it wasn't Vicky, I think it was maybe Maya, I mentioned this. It's so strong to say a leader has abdicated their responsibility. It's also so true right now. So this is like the powerful point between this and the call to action that you have. I think it deserves its own space. So maybe after you say, and I know this is a speech you've already done, but for like a point for everybody, maybe after you say like, you know, oh, they found out through the media, maybe you say, so then I have to ask myself, like, is this what a leader does? Is this what leadership looks like? As a leader, I expect you not just to be, you know, like hearing news from health officials and then regurgitating it back to us. I expect you to be one of our lines of defense. And so we ask ourselves as a leader, have you abdicated your responsibility? I would say yes. If I'm learning about my child being sick through the media, I would say yes. If I'm going on the dashboard and to try and find out what the heck is happening and I can't find that answer, then I would say yes, you're abdicating your responsibility. So the final question here has to be, how do we get back on track and what is your role in doing it? It is this. Now, be a leader, do your job.
Love it.
And then you are a leader. Just by taking that role, you are positioning yourself as a leader. You are perceived as a leader because you are being a leader.
Hell, you had to define it for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I would expect standing ovation after that.
You are all leaders. You're all leaders.
Thank you. No, that's a great rewrite, and I will definitely be talking to the board again. Because I'm not an employee of the district, I'm a parent. I have the ability to say things that other people aren't comfortable saying, and that's really something that I want to focus on is taking what I hear from the teachers and having the freedom to be able to say, I'm not risking anything because I don't work there. But yeah, you're rewriting, asking questions instead of making statements. That's huge. I think that'll be really good. Thank you.
We all know what the answers to the questions are, but it really focuses a person, right?
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Yeah. Good work, everyone.
Good work. Okay. Oh, this is so fun. Aren't you guys having fun?
Yeah. Glad to be on the other side of it.
Okay, who wants to have fun next?
I'll go.
Yay! Oh, good. I was gonna pick on you anyway.
Well, like Stacy, I actually came with a school board speech because I talk to them at every meeting. So that's just what I know, I guess. So, and I apologize for my lack of everything, but this is the best I could do today. So 1 second. So I'm here to ask the board to table the vote until all concerns and questions presented this evening have been fully answered and discussed in full and with the proper time and consideration. There are several things I'm concerned about in regards to the rights of children with disabilities in the North Allegheny School District. Presenting and voting on this plan this evening and setting the decision deadline 1 week from today does not allow families of children with 504 and IEP plans enough time to contact their team, set up a meeting, revise their plan, and discuss what may or may not be the best learning environment for their child. For this reason, I'm requesting the district revise the plan to require the special education department contact all families with their 504 and IEP plans to offer a team meeting and extend the placement request deadline until the team has decided on the best learning environment for their child. I'm also concerned about how the hybrid setup with cameras live streaming in classrooms can be compliant with privacy rights of students. Sorry, I've lost my spot. Can be compliant with privacy rights of students. I understand that the cameras and microphones will only be set on the teacher, but there are students who require multiple prompts for learning, but have identifying information for these students on a video or recording will be a violation of their privacy rights. In addition, there is a chance that students may have a meltdown in class, or another teacher, like for instance, a speech teacher or learning support teacher, may enter the classroom for a pull-out class. Having this recorded on video may violate a student's privacy. Suggesting that students just choose cyber instead violates their right to a free and appropriate public education and their right to be in a classroom learning with their peers. So I'm curious what the district's solution would be to protect student privacy while also delivering the best education possible for all students. In addition, I'm requesting that the same mental health considerations and services that are being provided to 9th through 12th grade students from Glade Run be provided to all students in K through 12, not just the students at the high school level or those who only chose the hybrid option. While we may think that our kids are resilient, and they do absorb and internalize a lot of the world around them. And it's important that they have a professional to talk to when the inevitable happens, or they want to share their fears or worries about the new environment that they're in. Again, until questions of parents are properly considered and discussed, I'm asking the district to table the vote. Thanks for your time.
2 minutes and 43 seconds. Very concise. Great. So first, let's ask you, Melinda, how did that go for you?
They actually extended the deadline a week.
Yay!
Very good.
Thanks.
Good.
That's all I got from them, but they did extend it for 1 week.
Clearly you had some kind of impact there. So what feedback would you give yourself?
Slow down.
What's that?
Slow down.
I agree. What else?
I'm used to going fast to try to get in under their time limit. So that's something I need to work on.
Yeah. What else? What do you think you did well?
Pausing. I don't know.
Okay. There are a couple moments where I did see that. Yeah. Okay. So for your peers, what do you all want to contribute? What do you think that Melinda did well? What do you think that you could work on? What is something that you might even learn from what you saw?
I'll go. I liked it, Melinda, that you kind of bookended. You started with your request and also ended with your request. So you bring it around. I might use stronger language instead of requesting, like parents require, this additional time. And when you laid out the fact that they would have to go through IEP meetings and get, first of all, get everyone's schedule together, that's going to take more than a week. So, the timeline that they've given is not feasible. And that's the actual issue, is that they're forcing too quick of a turnaround. And I'm going to tell you, I noticed this and I have done it myself. You were kind of swiggling in your chair.
I cannot help it. I'm sorry. I cannot help it. I'll work on it. I know. I'll work on it.
I'm a squiggler too.
I actually had to get, right now I'm sitting on my bed, but I
had
had
a non-wiggly chair.
Yes, a stationary chair, because I do that when I'm nervous.
I hear you. So I'm just using my dining room chair, and it's
I'll have to get a non-wiggly chair.
And I can't move around too much. And yet here I am. I'm like, I'll still swivel, even though there's no platform. I'm like, I don't know. Like, lesson number 1: don't move around in front of the camera too much. And then Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you, Stacy, for contributing. Who else has got something?
I thought you laid out your argument well, and that you made good points about it. There were things that I hadn't considered that you brought up. So I thought that was great.
Great. All right, Vicki, do you want to go?
Yeah, I don't have an idea of what you were talking about, being a childless old person. But it sounds critical and important to me. It seems like it is. And again, don't be afraid to put some emotion. Don't be afraid to color your words. Don't be afraid to really be stern when you want to be stern. Whatever your emotion is, feel it and show it. It's really important to get your point across, although you've got the week delay. I guess we can't find too much fault there, can we? Just feel what you're feeling. Show people what you're feeling rather than just say it, because and part of it is from reading too, as we talked about before. But yeah, color those babies, color those words. Be good. It'll be good. I felt it. I still felt it though.
Yeah. I'll reiterate, I loved how clear and strong your asks were, the thing that you asked for. When you are up, presenting in front of, testifying, lobbying, whatever you are doing, it has to be clear at the end of the meeting what it is that they can do. And you've done that very well here. You start with it, you end with it. And I think that's just a great way to do it. So well done on that. There's a line here that I loved that I think should be your opener that you kind of buried, but it was because it's a line that like starts with a lot of heart. So it's, we expect our kids to be resilient, and they are, but they also absorb all the whatever around them. I think that is true and powerful. I think that anyone listening to you who has kids, and even some of us who don't have kids, and we just assume so, will agree that that is true, will affirm that right off the bat, right? Like that is a non-controversial thing, and it also makes us feel warm, right? And it makes us feel like we want to do everything that we can to protect our children, resilient as they are. We don't want to have to put them through anything. And that's the headline right there.
Common aspiration.
It's the common aspiration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the powerful thing. And I think if you start with that, I mean, you've already won, right? But like, I think if you start with that powerful line, the line that has heart, and the line that everyone could say like, yeah, I agree with that, or yeah, I want that too. Then the things you ask for just seem so much more like, yeah, well, I guess we do have to do that then if I want this, right? It's just like a little like rhetorical strategy, right?
Okay.
The other thing that I want to, and I keep sort of like, focusing on this, is the choice issue, right? So the ask implies that there's a choice, that these people have a choice to do something right. Don't forget to highlight that them making the wrong choice has this consequence on you, right? And you do that a couple times, but almost make it like just so clear and in your face. And remember, the audience is not just them, it's also everybody else, saying your decision to do this will force these things. And ask yourself, is it really reasonable to expect us then to have to do X and Y and Z and A and B and C and da. You're making that choice forces our hand on all these things. It limits our ability and our choices. Or you can do these two things that I'm asking you to do. Delay by 1 week and the senior thing, whatever that was. Like those are two very clear things. Sometimes the asks that we make as progressives aren't super duper tangible, right? But they're a value-based ask, and that's great. Yours is like, you can do this thing, and we can all see if you did it or not. Like it's binary almost. Did you do this or did you not? Right? So I think that's so powerful. The thing you did well is you made that very clear. And another thing that you did well is you put that at the top and at the bottom. And I love that for an advocacy kind of ask. That's really good. So
thanks.
That was good. Can I make one note for all of us here? And I noticed it in Melinda's, but she's not the only one who's done this. The profuse apologizing for things that you should not have to feel any remorse about. And also, this is another thing that women and people of color do constantly. We use our time or our introduction to tear ourselves down by apologizing. And it's not necessary. You don't have to apologize like, oh, I don't have this and da. I don't have what. I don't care. None of us care. We're here to listen to you because you've got something to say and you're powerful. So when you say, oh, I'm sorry this, I'm sorry that, it takes away from the presence, the strength, the leadership that you have. Another thing that you can do instead of if you really do have to like not start strong, the thing that you can do is start warm and instead express gratitude to say, thank you in advance. I really appreciate that you're hearing me. I may not have everything together, but I appreciate that you've all assembled and you're giving me this time. Right? Because you're not actually like sorry as in remorse, right? Like all these things happened and you wouldn't choose differently because you had life to do. But it is nice to have the space And it is wonderful that other people are spending this time with you. And it's nice that everyone gets to hear from you. So, or that they get to contribute to it. So every time that we have to make an apology that doesn't come from a place of like deep remorse, like, oh shit, did I hurt you? I'm really sorry about that. Like, let me get this for you. Like, I'm sorry. But when it's like, maybe I've inconvenienced you, or maybe I'm not absolutely perfect, girl, none of us have that expectation. But it's really nice to start with actual gratitude. So even though I like said earlier, like, oh, stop with the stupid thank yous. Like, we don't have to thank. Well, that's because they're a bad guy, right? But for us in this room and we're listening to you, it's nice to start with like a thanks so much. I know that you're giving your time this evening, and I don't even have everything for you. So I'm extra grateful that you are giving me the feedback and the space to do all of this. Let's begin. So I don't think you even need to do that, really. But if you're compelled to apologize for something you shouldn't have to apologize for, which is 90% of things, then instead of starting with an apology, start with some warmth and gratitude instead. Like, instead of like, oh, I'm so sorry I'm late, when you're not really late, it's just a minute and everyone's okay. Instead, it could be like, thank you for bearing with me as I begin. Something along those lines. Sorry I don't have my notes. Thank you for listening to me as I put all this together on the fly. Okay, so.
And let me also say that we are very grateful. I think I speak for Arshad in this case, to be here with all of you tonight, because we certainly know that we've all had days and weeks. And we get so excited when we come into this space with you and with other people that we work with as well, because it always turns out to be a great evening for us anyway. So we hope it is for you too. And I'm getting a little sentimental the holiday time. I shouldn't be around people for a month now.
Oh, yeah.
Well, besides you. But it's very exciting because you guys are fabulous. Anyway, that's enough of me blubbering.
But Vicky's right. We're all very grateful. So we have Maya, Stacy, Melinda. Who's next?
We haven't done Laura yet.
Ooh, Laura. Did you know you were going to be put on the spot, Laura?
I get put on the spot a lot.
Let's do it. Let's do Laura.
I'm happy to do it, but also if Julie or Erin wants to step forward, you can go first. But if not, I'm happy to do it. I'm not going to take cuts here if you don't want me to.
What do you think? Do you need another minute to prepare? I think Erin's ready.
I mean, I can try.
How did that happen?
All right.
I love that.
Let's do Julie. I love that. I love that.
I can try. I mean, I haven't. Well, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
As Laura knows, I've done this before with the DNC, but we'll try it. We'll try it. All right. I mean, I do have a story to tell, and so in 1992, I was diagnosed with a very rare autoimmune disease called myasthenia gravis. And it was the year that I had my second child. She, when they put her in my arms, I couldn't hold her. My arms gave out on me, and I had to have my husband take her from me. We had no idea what was going on. I was an athlete. I could run. I was training for a marathon at the time. When during the year, I would try to walk. I couldn't walk. I had breathing issues. I had double vision. It was just, it was terrifying, just terrifying that my life was taking this turn that the doctors, I went from one doctor to another, and all I was being told is that it was postpartum depression because, of course, I just had a child and I was a female. So what else could it be but postpartum depression? And my husband kept saying to these doctors, no, my wife is not experiencing postpartum depression. there is something wrong with her. And I was in and out of the hospitals because then they thought it was my heart. It it was just the most awful thing that I had gone through. Finally, well, a psychologist gave me a bag full of pills and said, "Here, try these. This will make you feel better." I went to my primary doctor, handed him the pills, and said, "I'm not taking these. I'm not crazy. I'm not depressed. I know my body. I'm an athlete. I know my body. You need to find someone that can figure out what's wrong with me." He finally sent me to a pulmonary doctor who diagnosed me with myasthenia gravis. I had no idea what this disease was, none. So we found a very good neurologist who then did a CAT scan and found what's called a thymoma, which is which was on my thymus gland that had to be removed. And my daughter at that time was 1 year old, and I had have a son who's 3. So that we thought that I would go into what's called a remission. I had a 5-week remission time where everything was fine. I was living a very normal life. And then all my illnesses, all my can't even think of the word, it all just came back again where I couldn't walk. I was falling. Um, it was again life changing for me. Then I got pregnant with my 3rd child, and I went into a crisis. Crisis meaning that I couldn't breathe, I couldn't swallow, and I ended up in the hospital getting more and more medication until they got me out of the crisis. At that point, my doctors had said I had to be on what was called IVIG, which is immunoglobulin medication, which is administered through an IV. At that time, the insurance companies wouldn't pay for it, and we had to fight the insurance companies to get this paid for, or go into another crisis. And if you're in the hospital, the insurances will pay for it. So they would pay for it for 6 months, and then we would end up fighting them again. Finally, we got them to pay for it for a couple of years at a time. 14 years later, my older daughter, Rachel, was diagnosed with myasthenia gravis. Mind you, myasthenia gravis is not genetic. It's not hereditary. It's autoimmune, which means that anything within the autoimmune diseases my children could get. And my neurologist said there is no way my children would have myasthenia gravis. 3 years later, my younger daughter got myasthenia gravis. And then it got to the point where all 3 of us were doing IVIG.
You're frozen.
My husband was fighting the insurance companies all the time. If it weren't for the ACA, we probably would have gone bankrupt because the medication is $16,000 per treatment. If I didn't have the ACA, we would have reached a lifetime max 10 years ago, at least 10 years ago, which means that we would not have had insurance. No one would have picked us up, or me up, or my children up. We would have had pre-existing conditions. Also with the lifetime max, my children were able to be on my insurance until the age of 25. My older daughter had to get married in order to stay on insurance. So she stayed on her husband's insurance. So she actually got married in the court and then had a bigger wedding later on. This is what the insurance companies have forced us to do. My younger daughter will turn 25 in May. She has a very steady boyfriend. I'm sorry, 26 in May, 26. She has a very steady boyfriend. They plan on getting married. but not in May. So she's at the point now where, what do I do? Do I get married in May? Do we get domestic partnership? So that's where we are in life right now. And all because the insurance companies have put us in this place. It's like they don't really look at us as people. The ACA is what we have as a protection, and we have the Supreme Court at this point trying to take that away from people.
Oof.
That's my story. I could go on, but I won't, because I know it. I'm sorry. I actually had notes here. Look at them.
No, sorry.
I know. Sorry. I mean, sorry. I could keep moving.
All right. Yeah. So that was
Right.
that was a big story. There's
Cried.
a lot.
You almost had me crying there.
Yeah, me
Because it's so emotional for me. It's because now my daughter has COVID also.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
she has COVID. So I have that going on. Yeah.
There's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Your feedback. I guess that's what I want.
yeah.
I remember that was all off the cuff.
Yeah. Well, let me first say I really appreciate that you were able to share something so powerful and so emotional with all of us. So thank you for that. How do you feel you did?
Well, I know I've done better telling my story. My husband said it was very well done. He was listening. I'm trying to get rid of my ums by putting in the pauses. So
Yeah.
I think I've had too many ums in there, and I should have paused instead. But I got so into my story that I guess I forgot to put my pauses in instead of my ums. I didn't
I don't remember any umming. What a
Okay.
great guy. Thanks,
not
Mr.
worried about
Buckholt.
What else? What do you think you did well?
Just, I guess, the emotion, the deep emotion I had, I guess.
Yeah.
It really came, for me, it really came from the heart.
Yeah. And that is, for better or for worse, that is a real skill, because for many of us, for so much of our lives, we have had to regulate and tamp down emotions, even when they can be used, even when they're useful, when they're genuinely something that we should be using to color our words and actually highlighting, when it's a way that we can connect to people. Yet so many places in society, particularly in professional areas, particularly if you're a marginalized person, part of a marginalized community, we are told to police and regulate and tamp down to the point where they just don't, where it's not good for us. So I am glad. So it becomes a skill to override that. So I'm glad for that. What about, let's go to your peers. What did everyone else see? What do you think went well? What do you think you'd improve? What did you take away from it?
I'll go. Julie, I think that, so I was with you for the DNC conversation as well. And I definitely got the emotion both times. I see some similarities in our stories, in that you're going down one path and then life just completely flips. And I know, Laura, you have a really good turning point when you're sharing your story as well. And I think that is so relatable, because it can happen to anybody. I mean, life turns on a dime.
Right.
And really emphasizing that we were doing this thing, and then holy shit, these other things are happening. It's a really good way to share a story and to highlight that point, because now everybody's thinking about, what would I do if I were confronted with something that totally shifted my experience. And I think one of the things that I know you did it off the cuff and didn't have notes. There was some repetition. I just think it could have been tightened up probably.
Right.
But you know, comparing this to the version I remember from the DNC, this one was a little bit longer.
Right.
And with, you know, the tightening up and fewer, there's reference to like my older daughter and my younger daughter, and in my head I was going, which one?
I should have said names, right? Maybe.
But it's important because their experiences are different and they're at different places in their lives. So having that kind of clear outline of here's who I'm talking about, this is what happened to this one, this is what happened to that one, would be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else want to give some feedback? All right, Vicky, why don't you go first?
Well, I don't remember a whole lot because my mother had Lambert-Eaton syndrome.
Okay.
That is the opposite of myasthenia gravis, and I was an expert on it back in the year 2000 and 2001, and all I remember is that one is the bad acetylcholine shooter and one is a bad acetylcholine receptor. And I don't have that anymore, but I was reliving all those moments, that all the time it took for somebody to diagnose her.
Yes.
And everything that she went through and how mad she would get at people who wouldn't listen to her.
Right.
And she had this brilliant neurologist who literally diagnosed it when she said her mouth was dry after everything else. Got a blood test, sent it off to Stanford or wherever, and that's how they figured out she had small cell lung cancer. So yeah, the dime keeps flipping over and keeps flipping over, and so I just couldn't think of anything else but your story and how scared you must have been.
We were very scared.
And then to have your children get it, it's a horrible condition.
That was the worst.
And that's all I could talk about it. So thank you for sharing that.
So I agree with we can tighten this up, but like just know the format that you're in. If you know that you've only got 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 7 minutes, 7 minutes. There's not a lot. I mean, like, there's a lot of substance in what you're saying, and so we can say that there could be fewer words here and leave out that sentence there. But you've got a lot to say. That's not wrong. We just got to fit it into whatever format you might come in. Here's the things that I loved about this that give for that make for a good story. You went on a journey, right? Like the way that Vicky was talking about it, like it just took so long, and you're getting us on that journey. That kind of envelops us. It puts us in your world. Generally, when you're telling a story and you're on a journey, and then you're doing a good job and it's emotional, people kind of like get lifted out of where they are and put into your story. There's not much else that you can think about at the time. The other thing that really works with this, we didn't talk about it very much when we did the storytelling training, but there's so much mystery, especially in the beginning, right? It's so frustrating, this journey, but it's all about this mystery. And all you can do is fight, because you don't get the right answers, right? You don't get the help that you need, but you keep advocating for yourself. And then then you have to fight, you have to fight for yourself just to get diagnosed. Then you have to fight the insurance company just to get yourself covered. Then it falls onto your partner, your husband, to fight for you on your behalf. And then, excuse me, and then you have to fight for your kids. So in each place, you're fighting, you're advocating for yourself. Then somebody's advocating for you. Then now both of you are advocating for your kids. Fight. This is the common theme, and something that you can kind of lift up every time it comes up. And then I had to fight for myself, and then I had to fight for my kids, and my husband had to fight for me. All this fighting is exhausting. And it was the ACA that gave me my first break. I don't know what I should have done differently because I didn't ask for any of this myself, but I had to keep fighting anyway. And that's the world that happens to us sometimes. Why make it more difficult? Well, finally, the ACA made it a little bit easier so I could live. And now the question is if I should live, and if the question is, should I go bankrupt? What kind of world is this? We are doing everything right. I fought for myself, I fought for my kids, and I know all of you would do the same thing. But we live in a world where you get to make the decision to take all of this away from me. I don't know what else I should have done, but I know it's up to you now to keep this law in place. So,
Okay.
or something along those lines, like,
Yeah,
I
that's
think for
good
myself.
feedback.
Yeah. So there's just so much. There's a good, strong theme in here, and it's so
Yeah.
emotional. And I don't care that you say I don't care, like, because sometimes you just need to take a moment when there's a lot of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And Vicki and I talk about this with some of our clients. We don't have to talk about it with you because you did it. When you get really emotional, the most powerful thing you can do to get everyone else to like get them in your emotional space is to go right up to the line, right? You don't break down in tears and cry right there for whatever reason that's going over the line. People are like, oh,
Right.
But the closer and closer and closer you get to the line, the more and more and more, like, it affects our breathing.
Of crying is what he's saying.
Of crying. Like, even if you have to just like take a breath, for me, sometimes that's like the most powerful, like, pause, like when you're just like,
right.
And so that's when it is. And that is when everyone else starts crying, right? Because they're not up on stage.
Right.
So you bring people over the line. It is powerful. You know, somebody who doesn't understand advocacy might say, oh, it's emotionally manipulative. But for somebody who understands how people think and act and learn and behave, it's power that you have in a world that doesn't give you a lot of power that you can use to finally get people to understand your perspective.
Right.
I love that you did that.
Well, thank you.
Look at all of those fake preachers in those mega churches and how they're almost always getting to the edge of crying. It's definitely a proven technique. And they get to the edge of crying, and the collection plates just fill right up.
Maybe I should pass one of those around.
Yes, ma'am, you should. But just when you get to the end.
It's called taxes. We should all be paying.
I could use some extra.
Yeah, but it's very, 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 very powerful. It is. And people can tell if you're faking it, certainly.
Well, I wasn't faking it.
I know.
Well,
there's an alternate world where I should become one of those preachers, some parallel universe where I'm like a tent revivalist preacher. Ugh. I'm doing this. It's for all y'all. That's fine. We have time for one more. Oh, we actually have one more to hear from, Erin.
What happened to Laura?
You know what? I've heard enough from Laura.
All right.
It's not enough from her.
I like hearing Laura talk.
I can go really quick at the end because I can do, like
she's got it all memorized.
Erin first.
Well, thank you for having this forum for us today. I'm going to share with you a little bit of a story that I actually have not shared publicly before, since this feels like a safe place to do that. The reason I want to share this story with you is because I think it's so important that families, especially children of all diversities and of all abilities and just healthy or otherwise, has access to Medicaid. When my daughter was born in 2009, she was a healthy, beautiful, vibrant little girl. She happened to be deaf. And in Pennsylvania, when you have a qualifying disability as a child, you qualify for Medicaid right away. So she had access to Medicaid immediately, in addition to our private insurance, which became very important. As she got further into her earlier intervention therapies for her hearing, we discovered more and more issues that she was struggling with. And that led to more and more specialists, more and more testing, and genetics visits. We had to take her to genetics and they started testing her. And when they started looking at her blood work, it started coming back in a way that made them very suspicious. So they sent her for an ultrasound, and they didn't tell me why they were sending her for the ultrasound, but I figured it out. They were looking for liver cancer, and she was at the time 15 months old. And they were certain that she had liver cancer, that would explain these blood results. And when I called back and found out the results of the test, they said, well, she doesn't have liver cancer, and that concerns us. And I said, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Because liver cancer didn't seem like a good thing to have. But they said, we need to run another test. We need to run another gene test, and it's going to take another 8 weeks or so. And we're pretty sure we know what she has. We think she has ataxia telangiectasia, which is a devastating syndrome. It affects your balance. It is progressive. But it also destroys your immune system and causes cancer. And usually these kids don't live past the age of 15. So this is what they told me she had. They were sure. They had to have the gene test come back so that she could see the specialist at Johns Hopkins and later at St. Jude's. And we lived with that. I lived with that for the 8 weeks that we were supposed to wait. The test took longer. I was calling the nurse in the doctor's office every other day. And I didn't tell my husband about it because one of us had to stay sane. One of us had to still be the parent that could go to work and take care of the kids and not believe that their baby was dying. And I remember the Friday before Mother's Day, it had been about 12 weeks at that point. The nurse from the doctor's office called me and she said, Happy Mother's Day, because the test was negative. She didn't have it. And I remember just crumpling to the floor in a ball. And my husband was outside in the backyard playing with the kids. So I ran out and I didn't even have to say anything to him. I just started crying and he started crying and he said, so I guess it's good news. And I later told him what they were testing her for. And it was terrifying. But the thing is that was just one of a series of tests that they started doing. And it was every 3 months we relived this nightmare. And every 3 months they told us that she had some horrible, horrible illness. None of them felt as scary as that. But during this whole time, she was also accumulating multiple therapists, multiple doctors, and racking up hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills that we never looked at. We never had to worry about them. Because while we were waiting to find out if our baby girl was going to survive past the age of 5, we didn't have to worry about the medical bills because we had Medicaid. And then I remember when my son was 12, this was years later, he also has Medicaid because he has autism. We were out at a show with one of his friends, and he had a sudden stomach pain in his right side. It was sudden, it was severe. And, at first I was like, oh, just shake it off, buddy, you'll be fine. And then it became clear that we had to go to the hospital for this pain. And I didn't even bat an eye. I didn't have to worry about the copay. I didn't have to worry about any of the money that would have been involved in. I didn't have to worry about if we'd be able to pay the mortgage after I took him into the emergency room. And so I took him, and turned out it was his appendix. And if we had waited overnight, it would have burst and we would have had a much, much worse situation. And too many families wait. They think about how much they could use that $75 copay, even if they have regular insurance. That could be groceries for the week. So they wait and their kid gets sicker. So right now, Senator Casey from Pennsylvania, my home state, has a bill proposed to grant every child in America Medicaid coverage from birth to 18, period. And they can get additional coverage if they need it or they want it, but every single child in this country would have insurance, and they would have the peace of mind for their parents that if they get sick, they can get help. And if they have something that needs to be tested, their parents don't have to worry about the bills. They can just worry about their kids. So I would encourage everybody to support Senator Casey's legislation. to get Medicaid for every child in this country, because it's really very important. Thank you.
Wow, that was really good, Erin. Unmute yourself. You got to tell us how you did. Tell us how that felt for you. 31 seconds back.
I don't know how long it was. I didn't check. It's probably too long.
About a little over 5.5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my problem is I talk too much. And I said a lot because I wasn't reading. So
fine. What do you think you did well?
I think I told a story that I hadn't told 30 times over. So that it felt good to tell a different story or a different version of the story, I guess.
Yeah. Really good story.
Thank you.
What else? What else worked well for you in telling that story?
I felt like I was reliving it a little bit, telling it, and I don't know if that was good or bad. I felt like I was more engaged with what I was saying instead of just trying to get in under the line. Usually I'm hurrying through to get in under my 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and I'm chip chopping away at the story. So
it didn't feel hurried at all. Not at all hurried. All right, let's get some feedback from your peers. What did y'all think?
It was so engaging. Like I felt like I was there with you, like crumbling to the floor with you, like living the story with you. Just, you're so talented at telling a story and then weaving it to the issue you're talking about. I couldn't tell that you didn't have notes. Like, you did great.
Thank you.
How about another piece of feedback?
I would echo what Melinda shared. It was very immediate, and I bet every one of us has crumpled to the floor. That very visual and visceral reaction, that's very engaging. I have a lump in my throat. I haven't heard that. I mean, you haven't shared that story publicly. I haven't heard that story, but knowing you and Abby and all that your family has gone through, like one more fucking thing, is so many things. The other, Erin, I so admire your language is plain. Your word choice is clear. It's not flowery or pretentious or, embellishing at all. You are so straight and matter of fact, and the facts of these stories or these experiences are so powerful. And that because your language is plain, and I mean that as a compliment, because your language is plain, the story,
my hillbilly language,
the emotion comes through, and it's it's very immediate. I mean, just like what Melinda said, we were there with you. We were crumbled on the floor with you. That's really good.
Thank you.
Vicki?
Yes, the imagery was good. I mean, I found myself not breathing a couple of times, and again, there was commonality there where we've all been in, certainly not to that degree, but in situations where we've been very anxious to hear something back from a doctor and it never comes, or we have a situation where I'll just wait and call, it's Friday, I'll just wait till Monday, all of those things. And you expressed them so well, and you looked right into the camera, you looked right at us, you were talking right to us, and it was very powerful, very, very powerful. and but the imagery, that you colored the scene, not just your words. The crumbling to the ground. I ran outside and hugged him. I mean, the whole, like, my husband was playing outside with the kids, and I ran outside. We could see it. I could see it, and I'm sure everyone else too could too. So the imagery is fantastic, fantastic.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah. Among the
fantastic.
many,
As a, I wouldn't usually say that regarding a story like that, but yes, you know what I mean. Feels weird to say it.
among the many things that were really well done, I have to just sort of say again, the visual, the imagery that helps us sort of get out of our lives, like get out of our dining rooms and bedrooms and spare bedrooms and kitchens and whatever we are all in. And it puts us in your story. And you've heard that a couple times from what you've heard here. So that's all very good stuff, and something that we can all take with us, is to say, okay, what does it look like? What does it feel like? We ask people what it smells like, tastes like, that kind of stuff all the time. So that was very clear. You clearly did that well. You also, a nice thing to do in a story, of course, is building it and building it and building it. Suspense piece is really important, because it doesn't allow us to think about anything else. We're too focused in on what you're saying. And in fact, I actually took very few notes and didn't even realize it till partway through. Like, I'm working here. So that was very good, Erin. The thing that I think we can, if you want to workshop that a little bit and turn it up a little bit, I'm not worried about your ums and ahs, because when things are emotional, it's fine. It's relatable. And that part isn't memorable, the ums and ahs. Everything else you're doing is really memorable. Just as a matter of, like, in terms of how we advocate in a public place, we are often tempted to talk about the details of policy. And what we should be talking about is our aspirations and our values that underline why that policy is really important. And throughout your story, you do a very good job of that, but I want you to say it like by demonstrating it. But when we talk about the policy, Medicaid, we want to make sure that we're explicitly talking about what that allows us to do and why that's important. You're painting that very vividly with the story, but if you want to really sort of nail it, it's not so much that you don't have to pay. It's that you have the freedom to make the right choices for your child, right? It's not about, like, oh, I have to look at a bill, I have to do this. That's stuff that's good to say, because, like, that's how it works, right? But that's actually not what we're advocating for. We're not advocating for not looking at a bill. We're advocating for making the choices that we know we need to make as a child, or as a parent, for our child. Being able to have the ability, the freedom to make sure our child is well. And when they're not well, that we do everything that we can do to take care of them. Doesn't matter that there's tests, doesn't matter there's therapists. That's a part of what we do for our child. We don't do bills for our child. So it's useful to say, once, for people to figure out how Medicaid works. Most people probably know, but maybe not. But so the way that we could talk about it is, whenever we want to talk about a detail, a process detail, find the value, like the common value that's underlying it. What we're really, or the thing that allows us to do. And I'm not trying to be picky here, but because that's the thing that sticks, right? It sticks when we say, because I had Medicaid, and it wasn't like, because I wasn't spending all my time fighting an insurance company over various bills, I had the ability and the freedom to make the right choices for my child. Yes, that meant therapists. Yes, that meant specialists. Yes, that meant I had to keep going in and getting tests. And I don't love that, but I would do that for my child. And same thing with your other child, to be able to say, I can't imagine what kind of world would make a parent say, well, I don't know, I really could save $75. So could you just feel better or not? Maybe I'll think about it tomorrow. I'm glad I never had to make that kind of horrible choice. And just because of the fact that my child qualified for the kind of healthcare that said that when my child is sick, they get to go to the doctor. That is just so normal and rational and right. And it tears me apart to think that that's not actually what every other child gets. Well, it happens that Senator Casey has a bill that says every child should be able to get care when they're sick. When they're sick. Every parent should be able to take their child to the doctor if their appendix is about to blow up in their child. Like, come on now. It makes a lot of sense. You should have what my child has. You should make the choices that I can make. I shouldn't have to have a child born with autism to be able to have health care. You shouldn't have to have a child born with autism to be able to take them to the doctor. Every child, regardless of their condition, should go to the doctor when they're hurt, when they're sick. That's really good. It's a really great story. Erin, that's a powerful story. I want you to get with that story, workshop it however you need to feel, however you need to feel right about it. But wow, I can't wait to hear that story in more places. I can't wait for Senator Casey to put you up on a stage somewhere, virtually. Or maybe not, I don't know, things get better soon. I was gonna play this, hold on, let me see if I get it right. I was gonna do it on my computer, but that's here. Okay, it's supposed to be Pomp and Circumstance, but it's like the BBC's fault, so they're probably doing a bunch of other stuff. It's an 8-minute video. Imagine you've all graduated with the music. Yay, yay! You turn the tassel to the other side.
Wait a minute. What's going on?
See, this is why I tried not to do it on the thing.
Oh my God.
Vicky, don't worry about it. We all have our imagination.
I have a picture up too, but now since I have changed my operating system, I have pictures of hats flying. La 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 la. Okay, well, I painted that picture.
That's why we use our words to create visualization.
How frustrated I get when things don't work just right.
I understand we're all over, so thank you very much for sticking with us all the way through. I think we got a lot out of it for the extra 11 minutes that we've been spending together. So thank you for that. See how I didn't apologize?
I want your emails, everybody, because we're going to send you a link to your own personal file that's going to have feedback for anything that you've uploaded or sent to us, links to the slides, links to the recording. I'm actually recording tonight, so we can have these recordings. I remembered finally. So just keep an email out from us, not tomorrow, but soon. We'll have it all together for you. Looking forward to it. Yeah.
So you'll get a bunch of stuff at the end of this. We also have a little bit of time available for you if you're wanting to workshop some of this stuff. If you want to spend a little bit more time, we can go back and forth over email. That might be especially helpful after you receive your notes. So the notes will span from as I mentioned in the beginning, from your first videos that you submitted to this final, the notes that we have all sort of taken down here. So we'll put that all together for you. You'll have something, and if that elicits some questions, we're here for you. We're happy to give you a little extra. So that's that. I think we have seen some great improvements just in the visual presentation for how you are at home, but also in the content pieces. And I hope that you'll be able to use some of your media skills as well. That definitely takes practice. It's hard to do over a webinar, but only you can be doing the practice for it. So if you have any questions on that, also let me know. Cool.
Parting words, Laura?
Thank you so much, both of you. And thank you to everybody that stuck with us. And I hope that this is going to be helpful for everything that you do in the future.
Yes, yes. It really has been a great joy to work with all of you.
Yay. We'll have so many more Laura Packards now. I love it.
I know. Unleashed onto the world.
My cloning plan is complete.
Yes.
It's getting late.
Oh,
We're getting
that's-
cookie,
Oh,
and it's wine time for me. So
it's wine time for sure. Guys, have a great holiday, and we'll see you out there in the
I know we will.
mad,
Thank you
crazy
so much.
small world that we live in. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Right.